Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for attending today. This is a ceremony that is common in construction projects, particularly ones that have steel structures in them, because it's called a topping off, as you can see from the flyer. And typically in a building, that's the last piece of steel that goes up on top, and often we put a tree on it or a bush or something, and that kind of gives us good luck for the rest of the job. This time, of course, because of the unique design of the bridge, there's no single top piece of steel. So we decided that as soon as all the cables were in, all the structural steel was in, and all the concrete deck and closure pours are in, that would mark the completion of that last element of the structure. Of course, the project won't be open until sometime in March or maybe even early April. We have a lot of landscaping and a lot of other things that we do and a lot of amenities that will go with the bridge. But we wanted to take the opportunity to recognize some people who were part of that effort, and it's an extraordinary effort, as many of you know. The bridge is actually completed a little bit sooner than we'd hoped, so that's a good thing. And I wanted to, first of all, before we go any further, we're very fortunate to have three members of our city council here. Dolly Sandoval, our mayor, who will be speaking later, Vice Mayor Orrin Mahoney, and Councilmember Gilbert Wong. So to start this off, I just wanted to make a few comments. And this project, as all of you know, last spring in May of 2007 was, as they say in the movie industry, in turnaround. It was just about gone. And so we got a group of people together, and we spent about a month or so trying to figure out what to do. And then we, two people that Terry Green and I know from a long time ago, Bob Stromstead, who I worked with out here on the Route 87 project, and Les Robertson, who we worked with on the convention center, were part of this group. And we called on them and say, we need help. we gotta do something about this. And so Bob assembled his team with Ted Zoli, who you'll hear from later, and others, and our local HNTB office rallied around us, and we managed to pull this thing off. And it was an extraordinary accomplishment that everyone here who was part of that group shares in. And we redesigned this from a concrete bridge in a bid package in 6 weeks. That's blinding speed. And then we put it out to bid right away and had it in front of the city council within another 8 weeks after that in the award of the project. So, like I said, it's almost a Cinderella story, the way this thing turned around. So with that, I'd like to ask Mayor Dolly Sandoval to say a few words, and then we'll get on with the program. Dolly?
I'd like to join Ralph in thanking you for coming out today to this great topping off celebration. I am wearing several hats here today, and I'm going to tell you a short story about each one of them. One, I made all my coworkers, but particularly one in our lunchroom today where I teach, very jealous. I have a coworker who drives under this bridge every day to and from school, and when I told her I got to come out here today and we're doing this little topping off ceremony, she was this close to canceling her doctor's appointment that she made like 4 months ago because she wants to walk out on this bridge. She and her husband are super excited about being able to take it from Sunnyvale here to Cupertino, the Oaks, Whole Foods, and then back again without ever having to get in their car. Two, I come to you today as a representative of VTA, the Board of Directors. I'm the Vice Chair of VTA, and we are just so proud to be a sponsor and really one of the main sponsors of this project. We, on behalf of VTA Board, are excited that the voters in the year 2000 were forward-thinking enough to pass a bond measure that helped not just major transportation projects that have wheels in them, that not just pass congestion management projects, but also bicycle and pedestrian projects, because we recognize the wave of the future is not just in a car. And then lastly, as the mayor in this city, I'm just so pleased and quite frankly thrilled to have been able to follow this project on my 8 years or so of serving on a variety of VTA committees. I think it's important for us to also note that the efforts for this bridge itself was started about a decade ago by then Council Member Don Burnett, who is not with us today. Many of you know he is ill and has got some challenges, but he's here in spirit, and we hope to get this thing open and have him across it in the not too distant future, as in next spring. So on behalf of the City Council, we're thrilled to have a connection from here to the city of Sunnyvale that we can utilize without getting into a car. And we're thrilled that actually the residents in this area are now ecstatic and quite pleased with both the design and the safety aspects of it. And to all of you who are on the job daily constructing this, thank you for creating a safe project that many generations to come in the future will be able to utilize. Ralph, a huge thank you to you and your team for seeing this through. And that 6-week turnaround on the bid is nothing to sneeze at. Some people think government moves at a snail's pace. We all wanted this project to go forward, and it took hours and hours of just dedicated time to make sure that a bid project, after that multi-million-dollar estimate came in originally, was turned around, recreated, and then redesigned to the beautiful bridge that we're going to walk across in a few minutes. So thank you.
Thank you, Dolly. Before I go any further, I wanted to let you know that we have our very first of many articles. This one's in Modern Steel Construction magazine. Of our bridge, and with the help of HNTB and their resources, this is published, and we're going to see a lot more of these before we're done. This structure is really unique. It's the only cable-stayed bridge across an interstate freeway in the state of California, so it's very unique in that respect at all. And when we first started, especially with the steel design, we got all the Caltrans guys together, and they said, well, we said, what are your concerns? They said, hell if we know. We never built one of these things before. You tell us. So that's where we started. Before we go any further, there's one other introduction that I would like to make. I'll make several more before we're done. But the driving force behind this is a guy who's been my right hand for the last 20 plus years on a variety of projects. And that's our city architect, Terry Green. Terry's right over there. Just give him a nice round of applause. Terry and I started on the San Jose Convention Center, and I've hired him 3 more times in different places since then, and we're still trying to figure out who was dumber, me hiring him 4 times or him coming to work for me 4 times. So with that, I'd like to introduce our first speaker. Larry Davis is the president of the HNTB West Division, and he's joined us here today for this particular ceremony. He comes up from Huntington Beach, where the HNTB offices are located in Orange County. So Larry, please come forward.
Well, thank you, Ralph. I am enormously proud on behalf of HNTB to be a part of this project. And Ralph, it may be the first cable-stayed bridge across a freeway in California, but on behalf of us, and I'm sure our partners, we hope it's the first of many. I don't know why I get to be the guy that stands up and takes the credit. I think our real hero on all this, and you've already mentioned him, is Bob Stromstead. Bob is my counterpart in the northeast part of the United States now. He covers the northeastern part of the country. He called me about a month ago and wanted to make sure at least I would be here, and that kind of gave him an excuse not to travel. Not that he needed an excuse, but he's just so busy this time of year. It's a busy time for us. Also want to thank John Litzinger, who is our local office leader here in San Jose. John has just been a dynamo. I've never seen so much energy over one particular project. He has many in his purview, but I think he gets the most excited about this one. And constantly sending me links. I have watched this thing be erected from day one. I can click on the computer and wish I'd been here on some of those nights, but I know that our team was. So that's just a representative sample. I don't know how many of you watch Boston Legal. I love William Shatner in that thing, but every time they come back from commercial, they blip around different scenes around the city of Boston. Every week you see the Zachem Bridge, and same guy that designed this bridge designed that bridge. So I'm hoping that in future TV shows that are filmed down here in California, not that we do much TV in California, that this one will start showing up as a signature icon because it's a gorgeous bridge. I don't know, I can't talk technical. You start talking to Ted Zoli, our designer on this, and if you're not careful, your eyes are going to glaze over. But that's only because he's enormously proud. He is a world-class designer. He was instrumental in this being able to be redesigned in 6 weeks. And so I'm honored not only to be involved in this project, but to introduce Ted Zoli of HNTB.
Well, I can tell you that when the project began, when the first meeting we had together with Ralph and Terry in New York, I thought this is the craziest project that I could ever be involved with. When we sat down and said, well, here's what we said, could it be done? There's really a question of could it be done? Could this project be redesigned at significant cost savings? And looking at it, we really felt like it could be, but there were some challenges with that, particularly in California where we're mostly doing concrete bridges. But we felt like there were opportunities, some real significant opportunities. Now, it's one thing for an engineer to say that, and it's another thing for an owner's team to say, all right, we'll redesign a project in that 6-week time frame. But I can tell you that this is usually the worst thing you can do in engineering is redesign a project and put it out for bid. Usually it comes back twice as costly. And in this case, we were trying to make it about half the cost from a bridge perspective. And I can tell you that from the city of Cupertino's perspective, leadership-wise, I've never seen anything like it. What Ralph and Terry empowered us to do on this project, is nothing short of legendary. I've never seen it happen. I've done many bridges all throughout the United States, a bunch abroad. I've never seen that kind of leadership, which is to say, let's figure out how we can get it done, and also to have the presence, I think, to reach out to the contracting community, to make sure that Caltrans was aligned and on board. Every piece of the puzzle from the engineering side before the project got started was in place, and I have to say that has so much to do with the leadership from City of Cupertino, particularly Ralph and Terry. But that's only drawn pictures. The folks who built this bridge and who oversaw the building this bridge have also done a tremendous bit of work. Safety is not the only thing. The problem with this project, the reason it was expensive in the first go around, is you're doing all of this work over an interstate, over I-280. That's dangerous work, and the degree to which you can do it quickly not only saves construction dollars, but saves the potential for a safety incident. And I have to tell you that each tower, if you've seen the webcam, the towers went up in hours, The concrete towers would have taken months, so that's hours to months. The superstructure was essentially 4 nights, So in these circumstances, you really are building a much safer structure, safer to the traveling public, safer for the end users, but my hat's off to Golden State and Swinerton in terms of delivering the project, especially those parts of the project that are super challenges, represent real safety issues to the traveling public and to their staff and their workers. That's really as remarkable a job, I think, as any of our jobs in the project. And these are circumstances. These topping offs are I actually don't get to go to them often. I'm certainly real proud to be here and proud to be part of a great team. Thank you.
Ted's given me a good segue to introduce 2 of the guys responsible for what he just described, and that is from Golden State Bridge, our contractor, Will Reams and Darren Lindsay, who are in the back there. Will, Darren, raise your hand. And this is we had a little get-together about 2 weeks ago with Will and Darren and all the guys who were working on the job. I mean, these are the guys who put the bolts in and finished the concrete and did all that, and we had a nice little barbecue out here and gave them all little certificates of appreciation for the work they've done, because it was extraordinary. I've never seen a contractors group that got it done and did it with no nonsense and were so good to work with. They deserve a great deal of the credit. Now, having said that, no claims, right? Well, so with that, I would like to take the opportunity to introduce, before I introduce the next speaker, two other people who are here today that started with me and Dave those long 8 years ago in this project. Two members of the Bicycle Pedestrian Commission at that time, Joe Walton and Ann Ing. Ann's right over here. Where's Joe? There's Joe sitting down here. And that kind of support, and of course goes without saying, the support of our city council, this thing couldn't have happened. So with that then, I'd like to introduce our construction manager. Tom Loomis has been with us for quite a while. We did another smart thing. We brought the construction manager in early. Typically they join the team about the time the bids are open, and we brought him in early. Tom and his team have been an enormous resource. Swinerton is a fine group of construction management consultants, and without Tom and his team, it wouldn't have gotten done just as quickly. So, Tom, would you please come forward?
Thank you. I first got involved in November, December of 2006 with a $6.3 million budget for the concrete bridge. Bid opening was May 3rd of 2007 with a low bidder of $12.4 million. From there, it just got worse. We looked at the design, we started doing value engineering, we figured out how we could take $1 million out of the project, and we still weren't even close at $11.4 million. Late June, early July, it looked like this project was in the garbage can. It looked like it was over. But through the vision and the power of Ralph Qualls, Terry Green, and Carmen Lina, as well as John Lissinger, we started thinking maybe this should be a steel bridge. And through HNTB, we found Ted Zoli and Ray McCabe on the East Coast, and there was just a synergy there between both groups that was able to bring this project through. Also, the cooperation of Caltrans throughout the project with Patrick Ing and Emil Vergara in oversight, all the people in right-of-way, landscaping, electrical, all throughout District 4, as well as Steve Gong. Also at Caltrans, our oversight has been excellent with Mo Shakafani and Tom Lowe and Surjit Baines, and especially Helena Au, who helped us go to Germany and verify the cables. Also, trying to remember everybody here, but I'd like to keep my staff at Swinerton, Rafi Khan, Lisa Lawrence, and Richard Garul have been out here working constantly with the city, the contractor, Caltrans, everybody, and it's been a very successful project, and I'm very happy to be here. Now, most importantly, not enough can be said at these type of ceremonies for the contractor, Golden State Bridge, who is a very safe, safety-oriented working contractor. My job has been very easy because of Will Reams and Darren Lindsay and Louis Coban, who have been here throughout the project, managing and just making this a great project. So through the hundreds of technical details we've had to go through, it actually was 3 nights, September 3rd, September 4th, and September 5th, the superstructure went up. And Ted was watching at 3 a.m. in the morning. We were talking to him on the phone constantly. And the cooperation between all parties and Golden State Bridge just could not have been better, as well as Schweiger Davis, who helped make sure we got the cables in the right length from the right people, which makes a big difference. So I'm just glad to be here. I thank the City of Cupertino for allowing me to participate, and I'm going to hand it over to the City Manager, Dave Knapp.
It's been great to work with Swinerton, by the way. This is the second time we built a small project over by City Hall called the library. Some people have asked me, what do you call this bridge? And naming can be kind of a tricky thing, as any of you have been around here for all know. And I said, well, it's got a name. It's called the Mary Avenue Bicycle-Footbridge. But if you were to give it a name, the name you might consider is the Resurrection Bridge, because this thing was stone dead, maybe concrete dead. And have to recognize Ralph again, who's been recognized several times, who said, no, this is not dead. We're going to build this thing. First person I ever heard talking about the bridge was a guy named Don Burnett, a council member at the time, and would be here today, but he's a little bit under the weather. But I wanted to recognize his efforts there, along with Ann Ing, who is inveterate bicycle supporter and tells me every time there's a bots dot that needs to be moved or a sign that needs to be changed. And Joe Walton, of course, and Joe Walton's work with the BPAC. In fact, the VTA BPAC is here today. If you'd raise your hands, anybody who's on the VTA BPAC, there we go. A great group. Really went to bat for us on the funding, and of course, some of the same hands may go up because our own bicycle pedestrian committee representatives are here, and you ought to take credit. You've been on there, and I know Joe is here. So, and anybody else from the BPAC? Oh yeah, Jim Wayne, doing a great job. I want to focus a little bit on the City Council. The City Council showed an enormous amount of investment in this bridge and courage to authorize this bridge not once but twice. And after the first time, to step back up to that plate was a pretty amazing feat. And the council has been behind this all along and is making this happen as well. And I want to finish by just recognizing once again, you know, Ralph is out there in the front, you see him a lot, but always behind Ralph, working tirelessly, is Terry Green and Carmen Lina. The two of them have always been after it, and this has been nonstop. They're also doing another small project at the same time in building the Creek Corridor project, so they've been busy people. But it's been a pleasure to be associated with this thing. This is a signature piece. I like to think of this as the second most recognizable bridge in the Bay Area. So, thank you.
It's a lot cheaper than the other one, too. Just one or two last things. You heard Tom talking about Golden State Bridge and Will and Darren and all their guys and Lewis, who are incredibly safety conscious. I mean, they really, this is, as you said, a dangerous project. The only time I ever saw them the least bit nervous in the safety sense was the night about 1 o'clock in the morning when we put the last pin over here in the last cable. And I was the guy honored to do it. So Lewis strapped me into this rig and hooked me up to the bucket, and they hauled me up to the top there. And I literally hear Darren and Will gnashing their teeth as this was going on. But we managed to get through it, and it turned out okay. The last thing I wanted to say before we conclude is, for me, this project has an additional special meaning that most people don't know about. The first project I ever did when I got out of the Air Force with Caltrans was the Watt Avenue pedestrian overcrossing. And of course it was just a concrete box girder bridge. It didn't look anything special. It was going over Highway 50, which was that time being built as a freeway. This was 1970. And so here I am, you know, 38 years later with this bridge, which may well be my last. So it's a real alpha omega kind of thing, and we're all so proud of this bridge. So what I'd like to do now is offer an invitation to any of you who would like to walk out on the bridge. Of course, it's still a construction site. Anyone who would like to go out there, we have hard hats and vests, and we'll have to escort you out, and a number of us will be prepared to do that, and anyone is welcome. I should tell you, I learned one thing when they were assembling the vests over here, that the orange vests, the orange color, when you're in the county jail, that means you're in the regular section. The yellow ones mean you're in the mental section. So pick whichever one that flies and head on out there. And thank you all so much for coming and for all of your help on this project. Thank you. These are parts of the wetland fund.
Okay.
You can see the rebar still there.
Yeah.
And it fill in.
Nice feeling.
Just like this, we had about maybe 80 people come out before the bridge opened officially to try to get it to move, and it's really an interesting experiment. But these are always bridges like this always move, and this is actually actually considered not much movement.
That
Yeah.
was pretty good.
Yeah.
We didn't want to just have regular old cyclone fence material, what they have and everything else.
And it doesn't need to fit any cushion in that.
Well, no, it's not finished. See these brackets up here? They'll bring in there and they'll lock them. See like they just haven't finished the top yet.
We came up with an idea where if we lift the deck up in the middle of the bridge, we actually lifted the deck up about 2 feet higher than it should have been.
Okay.
Yeah? And so that allowed us to install the cables without too much load. So the first cable we installed was actually the longest backstay, that cable, and then only the main span cables because we had the deck lifted up. And that really allowed us to do something without the deck on. It was light enough, but we did that all with come-alongs, all with the light equipment, and then not adjusting the cables. The big problem with engineering with these structures is that the cable, if I adjust this cable, it unloads that cable, that cable, Right, that's right. Just like
Worse than a piano.
Yeah, it's worse than a piano. So then the idea of not having to adjust the cable saves a lot of time and effort in the field. And I think actually it makes this kind of bridge, if we can build bridges where we don't have to adjust the cables, it takes a lot of the tuning out. Yeah, well, it takes a lot of the complications part out, which I think for contractors is what they worry about. Yeah, is what costs money. You know, if you're out there trying to finish and you're not exactly sure what to do. Yeah.